History loves the drama of a crash, the spectacular fire of a sudden collapse. We want to believe that the Galactic Republic was a vibrant, living thing that was murdered in its prime by a Sith conspiracy. But nature tells a different story, one of slow decay and the inevitable cooling of stars. In the physical world, every organism has a programmed limit, a moment when the cells stop dividing and the system can no longer sustain the weight of its own existence. The Republic was not murdered. It simply reached the end of its biological clock, a victim of its own impossible longevity. For 25,000 years, it had expanded, aged, and eventually calcified, turning from a flexible organism into a rigid monument of stone. By the time the final blow was struck, it was already a hollow shell, held together by nothing but the memory of its former glory. Palpatine wasn't a killer attacking a healthy body. He was merely the one who noticed that the giant had already stopped breathing. A healthy system requires the constant, violent replacement of old parts with new energy. This is how life persists against the pull of the void. But the Republic had become a victim of its own survival, a massive organism that had traded its ability to evolve for the comfort of tradition. Its bureaucracy was no longer a nervous system sending vital signals. It was a build-up of plaque in the arteries of the galaxy, slowing everything to a crawl. Every endless debate in the Senate and every corrupt committee was a symptom of cellular decay, a sign that the body could no longer heal its own wounds. The system had become so heavy with its own history that it lost the agility to react to the shifting tides of the universe. It was an ancient oak tree, magnificent to look at from a distance, but hollowed out by rot and forgotten by the seasons. It didn't fall because the storm was unprecedented. It fell because its internal structure had long since turned to dust, leaving only the bark to hide the emptiness within. In medicine, when tissue begins to die while still attached to a living body, it is called necrosis. This was the true state of the Republic's democracy, a terminal condition masked by the grandeur of the Coruscant skyline. The ideals of representation and freedom were still being recited like holy mantras, but the actual functions of justice had long since withered away into meaningless ritual. The Senate had become a terminal patient, kept on life support by a constant infusion of debt, greed, and the hollow promise of endless expansion. They were debating the aesthetics of the room, while the foundations were being consumed by the very parasites sworn to protect them. This wasn't a failure of politics, it was a failure of vitality, a total breakdown of the system's will to live. A democracy that can no longer serve the living is, by definition, a ghost, and ghosts have no place in a galaxy that demands the harsh reality of action. There is a process in nature called apoptosis, programmed cell death, where a system systematically destroys its own components to make room for something new. The Jedi Order, in their spiritual blindness, became the aging cells of the Republic that refused to accept their own expiration. They clung to an era that had already passed, trying to preserve a peace that had turned into a suffocating shroud for the galaxy's people. By tying their fate to a dying political body, the Jedi ensured that they would share in its inevitable decomposition. They were like the last leaves of autumn, clinging to a frozen branch, refusing to fall even as the frost began to claim the world. They mistook their stubbornness for loyalty, but in the eyes of a cold and evolving universe, they were simply an obstruction. They were the deadwood that refused to burn, preventing the next generation of life from ever seeing the light of a new sun. We view the rise of the Empire as an external infection, a parasite that forced its way into a healthy host. But perhaps we should see it as a surgical necessity, a dark mercy for a system that no longer knew how to die. When an organism is riddled with rot, the universe provides a scavenger to clean the bones and clear the path. Palpatine did not create the darkness. He merely inhabited the hollow spaces that the Republic had left behind through centuries of neglect. He was the catalyst that accelerated a process that was already written in the stars, the sharp edge of a scalpel cutting away the necrotic tissue of a dying age. The new order wasn't a theft of power. It was the inevitable filling of a vacuum left by a system that had expired in everything but name. The Sith simply provided the finality that the Republic was too cowardly to claim for itself. When a great fire sweeps through an old forest, it looks like a tragedy to those who only see the flames. But to the Earth, it is a reset, a clearing of the path so that the cycle can begin again. The Republic had to expire because it had become a cage for the galaxy's potential, a suffocating layer of old growth that prevented the new seeds from reaching the light. The transition from Republic to Empire wasn't a fall from grace. It was the brutal, messy reality of a seasonal shift that had been delayed for too long. The old era had overstayed its welcome, and the universe demanded a clearing of the slate. As the banners of the Republic were lowered for the last time, it wasn't a funeral for a living dream. It was the final, honest burial of a ghost. The fire had done its work, and in the silence of the ash, the galaxy was finally allowed to dream of something different, even if that dream was born in the dark.